Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Afiq Abdul Rahman and I'm the group leader for Group 8. And in this video, I'll be discussing and talking about the topic food safety and storage using refrigerator. Before we get to that, I would like to introduce my group members. Asma Amira, Lawrence Kim Kai Shen, Nurul Najwa binti Mustafa, and Tae Ching. Okay, without further ado, let's get to the introduction. Introduction of refrigerator. Okay, a refrigerator is a popular household appliance, commercial and home appliance that consists of thermally insulated compartment and heat pump, which is mechanical, electronic, and chemical, or chemical, that transfer heat from the inside of the fridge to its external environment, so that the inside of the fridge will be cool to a temperature below the ambient temperature of the room. The refrigerator should be kept or at or below 4 degrees Celsius, and the freezer should be regulated to negative 18 degrees Celsius. Refrigeration is an essential food storage technique around the world. The lower temperature lowers reproduction rate of bacteria, so the refrigerator reduces the rate of spoilage. The refrigerator maintains a temperature a few degrees above the freezing point of water. The optimal temperature range for a perishable food storage is 3 to 5 degrees Celsius. A similar device that maintains temperature below the freezing point of water is called a freezer. The refrigerator replaced the ice box, which has been a common household appliance for almost a century and a half. The next slide is meat, poultry, and fish. Okay, this is some of the examples of meat. We have lean meats. We have beef, lamb, veal, pork, kangaroo, and sausages. For the poultry, we have chicken, turkey, goose, bush birds. And for the fish and seafood, we have fish, lobster, mussels, oysters, scallops, and clams. For this slide, I'm going to explain about proper ways to store meat, poultry, and fish. For the packaging, keep packages of raw meat, poultry, and fish in a separate plastic bag, bowl, or pan on the lowest refrigerator shelf. This keeps the juices from dripping onto other foods, and lower shelf is usually coldest. Use fresh meat, poultry, and fish within a couple days. Toss meat, poultry, or fish with an off order, a sticky or slimy surface, or perhaps a discoloration. For the storage temperature, keep the beef, poultry, and fish below 40 degrees Fahrenheit during storage. For the meat, store uncooked beef items together separate from cooked foods. Refrigerate or freeze fresh beef immediately after bringing it home. Poultry, to greatly reduce the growth rate of pathogenic bacteria that may be present on the surface. For the fish, just keep it outside of the temperature zone in which bacteria that causes foodborne of illness grow quickly. For the method to handle this meat, poultry, and fish, for the meat and poultry, trimming excess fat and removing bones if possible will conserve the freezer space. Meat should not be salted prior to freezing. Salting draws out moisture and oxidized meat, fat giving a rancid flavor, and reducing time meat can be left in the freezer. It's best to freeze fish in tightly wrapped package form. Fish takes less storage space and fits the family portion for one meal at a time. Fish freeze faster in tightly wrapped packages. Small whole fish sticks or fillets are easy to prepare and package with. Next, I pass it to the next presenter. It's all from me.
And now I'll present about the food storage in the refrigerator of the eggs and dairy products. The example of dairy product is milk, cheese, sour cream, whipping cream, and yogurt. And for the eggs, there are various types of eggs such as in liquid form, custard, canned, in shell, eggs in the shell, and separated egg yolks or white. The shelf life of each type of the dairy product is different. For example, milk can be stored in refrigerator for 5 to 7 days, while butter can be stored for up to 1 year. However, the condition of the eggs and dairy products will affect the shelf life also. For example also, if the milk is open, it only can be stored for a shorter period that is only 4 days. And now I would like to share my own experience with the storage of the eggs and dairy products in my house. The dairy products usually in my home refrigerator are the cheese, butter, and there are some eggs there also. The eggs in my refrigerator maximum can be stored for 1 month, and sometimes the eggs will be rotten. Maybe it is because the eggs is cracked and the quality of the eggs is not very well. Besides that, the cheese can be stored for half a year, while the butter lasts longer compared to the both eggs and cheese, which are 1 year. Hence, I think our home refrigerator is suitable for the storage of the food, example like the eggs and dairy products, because the temperature needed for the storage is not too low, which is about 2 to 4 degrees Celsius, and it can be supported by our home refrigerator. And now I would like to share the proper ways in storing egg and dairy products in the refrigerator. First, the temperature of the refrigerator is very important and it should not be opened too frequently. If you always open the refrigerator, the internal temperature will be affected. Dairy products should be stored in refrigerator at about 36 to 39 Fahrenheit. If the temperature is higher, the dairy product will spoil and cause wastage. We also have to prevent direct light to the refrigerator too. The next will be the preparation and handling method for the eggs and dairy products. Before we store the eggs in the refrigerator, we need to make sure it is not cracked to prevent the growth of bacteria, and we have to buy the pasteurized milk to make it last longer for a longer period. The third will be the packaging. We should avoid the eggs and dairy products from direct contact with air, and they should be covered closely. For example, like eggs with separately yolks and the whites, they should be stored in a container to prevent bacteria that lead to rotten eggs. And lastly, some of the dairy products can be frozen also besides the cooler. For example, milk and butter can be frozen, but others dairy products such as cottage cheese or sour cream are not recommended to freeze because it will affect the texture of the products. And I think that's all from me, and I will pass it to my groupmate. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Asma Amira binti Azmi and my metric number is 212059. So I'm going to explain and share my experience about fruits and vegetable storage in the refrigerator. So basically, fruits and veggies are stored in the crisper drawer, but some are also stored in the main part of the fridge. Some refrigerators have a function to adjust temperature and humidity. Depends on what kind of items we are storing. I'm not sure my home refrigerator have that function or not. I guess no, but never mind. Then fruits and veggies are also should be stored separately, as some fruits release ethylene gas that can spoil the veggies and other fruits. Each types of fruits and veggies have a different method of storage. So I'm just going to share 4 methods of storage only, which are for apples, grapes, lettuce, and carrot. So the first one is apple. The ideal temperature for apple is 30 till 35 degrees Fahrenheit and 90 till 95% of humidity. Apples should be stored in a plastic bag with holes to increase the humidity. The most important tip is do not store the other veggies in the same drawer with apple, because apples is one of the fruits that emit ethylene gas, which speed up the ripening and decaying process of neighboring produce. In my experience, I usually store apples with veggies. I don't store them separately, so I think that's why the other veggies go bad faster. The next is grapes. The temperature for grapes is 30 till 32 degrees Fahrenheit and 90 till 95% of humidity. Grapes is recommended to store unwashed as any excess moisture will speed up the decaying process and cause the fruit to rot more quickly. Usually at home, I always wash the grapes first before storing them in the fridge. I guess no wonder the grapes look like crumbs and spoil quickly. Moreover, grapes are best kept in the original package. For lettuce, if we are storing loose lettuce leaf, we can use plastic bag, but be sure to leave small portion of it open so air can circulate, or we can wrap in a wet paper towel. Proper air circulation and a small amount of moisture will keep the lettuce crisp and fresh. It can last 7 to 10 days when properly stored. The last one is carrot. Carrot should be stored in container with water to retain the moisture. We don't have to wash them before storing because rinsing carrot can actually cause mold growth. And be sure to remove the stems and leaves so they don't pull all the moisture from the root. Lastly, it is the best to cook those carrots right away. I think that's all from me. I will pass to the next presenter.
Thank you, Asma. I'm Lawrence Lim, and my matrix number is 213451. I'm going to present about grains and canned products. Grains, which are rice, oatmeal, whole wheat bread, corns, and so on. These are the food or grains that we usually consume daily. And for canned foods, there are canned meat and fish, canned beans, coconut milk in cans, and so on. Now these are the ways to store grains and canned food. For grains, it is recommended to store at a dry and shady place. It should also be kept away from direct sunlight. Besides, it should be kept away from other foods. This is because if we keep grains with other foods, the odor and the flavor of the grains will be different. And we should keep grains at room temperature for around 4 degrees Celsius. And for canned food, it should be stored at a cool and dry place. And it also should be kept away from furnace. This is because the heat from the furnace will expand the canned food, and the food inside the canned food will spoil faster. The canned food should be stored at the room temperature for from 10 to 21 degrees Celsius. Next, for the grains that are stored in a refrigerator, it should be kept in an airtight container. This is to prevent the moisture from the air from going into the grains. And for the grains that are kept in an airtight container, it can be stored in a refrigerator for 1 to 3 months. And lastly, for the canned food that are going to store in a refrigerator, we are focusing more to open canned food. This is because, as we all know, canned food can be stored in a room temperature for a couple years. So for those canned food to be stored in the refrigerator, we are more focused on open canned food. For the open canned food, the food inside the can should be transferred into clean and covered container before transferring into the refrigerator. For the food that transferred into the container, it can be last for couple months in the freezer and couple weeks in the refrigerator. And that's all from me. And I'll pass to other presenter. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Najwa binti Mustafa. My message number is 21254. For my part, I will present about how to store leftovers in proper ways in the home refrigerator. Before I explain more about leftovers, let's know what is leftovers. Leftovers are surplus foods remaining unconsumed at the end of a meal, which may be put in containers with the intention of eating later. Inedible remains like bones are considered waste, not leftovers. Depending on the situation, the amount of food and the type of food, leftovers may be saved or thrown away. The use of leftovers depend on where the meal was eaten, the preference of the diner, and the local culture. Leftovers from meals at home are often eaten later. It is facilitated by the private environment and convenience of airtight containers and refrigeration. People may eat leftovers directly from the refrigerator, reheat them, or use them as ingredients to make a new dish. What is the purpose of storing leftovers in a home refrigerator? The purpose of storing according to guidelines is to maintain optimal freshness and avoid the growth of bacteria. The examples of leftovers are leftovers cake or dessert, cooked vegetables, and cooked poultry or meat, and others. Now, I will talk about the proper ways to store the leftovers. Okay, first, place on the top shelf of the fridge. The purpose is because this is where the most consistent temperature is maintained to keep the freshness of the leftovers and also to avoid the growth of the bacteria because of the suitable temperature for bacteria to grow. Okay, second, break up any leftovers into small containers. Don't simply place everything into one large container. This cools the leftovers more quickly. While most bacteria are killed during the cooking process, some may still remain. It's okay to eat small amounts in most cases, but this also means that there is potential for the bacteria to grow if left at room temperature. Smaller containers result in faster cooling of leftovers. Third, store in airtight containers. The purpose is to secure any leftovers to prevent odors from getting out into the rest of the fridge and contaminating other foods. Okay. Lastly, leave space between any leftovers. This will ensure that the leftovers cool down properly and good airflow is maintained throughout the refrigerator. Put prepared foods into the fridge as soon as possible and don't leave food items out on the counter longer than 2 hours. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you.